I'm retarded?
Come one, come all. Ladies, gentlemen, gun sluts and autists. I present to you, the Gun Cunt.
What is going on YouTube? You may be wondering what's in the box, but as you can read, this is going to be a video on the Pioneer Arms 5.56 Forged series of AK rifles. So I did an initial kind of inspection at the FFL. However, now that I have it home, I've kind of pulled some of the odds and ends out of here, but this is basically what it's going to come with. So you have the rifle itself, you have the manual, which is going to be underneath the foam right there. This basically covers kind of your basics. However, I do want to complement them. Going through many different firearms and their manuals, you don't get close-up clear pictures many times. Like Century Arms is notorious for having very blurred, almost like black and white copy paper kind of pictures where it's very hard to decipher what's going on. With this, I can actually clearly see kind of what they're getting at in terms of disassembly. This would be for more of your new users, perhaps somebody that just bought this and they haven't gone onto YouTube or anything like that, so long as we have the ability to still see disassembly videos on YouTube. But again, very clear pictures. There's not a whole lot of juicy details in terms of what they kind of go through here in terms of like the round counts and things like that. However, one thing I do appreciate is, unlike a lot of the other manufacturers, again, this should be something that's common knowledge for most AK people, but I like that they kind of tell you how to adjust the sights. This is something that's typically left off. Most manuals are going to cover the disassembly, but they're not going to cover sighting things in. So it kind of has a rough, sighting in description here, and then goes from there. But it's got pictures of both the windage and elevation, as you can see here. I think that's kind of cool. One bummer is this manual is more geared towards their 7.62x39 rifles, as highlighted here with the suggestion of the, re-zeroing and break-in. This particular brand of ammunition and the grain that they suggest using. So it's a bummer that it doesn't apply to the 5.56 rifles, but coming from over there, I understand. But anyway, no frills, but good compliments on the pictures that they include. So I'm going to toss this aside. Next up would be the magazine that comes with it. Online, these look very chintzy and thin, and surprisingly, one of the things that stood out to me when I first unboxed the rifle and handling the magazine, I'm not a huge fan of non-reinforced magazines. However, upon handling this, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. As you can see here, I'm squeezing in on the body of the mag. That is a good sign. I mean, that is some nice thick material. I'd say the kind of polymer blend that they've used is reminiscent of a mix between, Magpul and Tapco. It is definitely not the thinner, chintzier Pro Mag style. Here's the feed lips. Again, I am kind of squishing down. I mean, you can make them bend, but I mean, I'm really kind of pushing down on that, and I'm not getting a whole lot of flex. They are non-reinforced, so it's just straight polymer, but surprisingly better than I was expecting. It really is. I got to lend my compliments to the magazines themselves. They're not terrible. Good base plate here, very reminiscent of a Magpul style of base plate. Here, in fact. Kind of get you now. Obviously, probably not swappable at all, but you can tell very, very similar in terms of how they ran it. But kind of cool. I appreciate the fact that these aren't as shitty, at least in the fit feel kind of regard. It's a much thicker plastic than I was expecting. Spring tension feels okay. I mean, obviously, if there's any more tension inside of there, we may have some feeding issues. But once I load this up and go live with it, I think that'll tell. It's also got witness holes for the 20 and 30 round. Most just knock you off here at 30, but it's kind of cool to have the 20 round. I think that's a cool detail. So again, my compliments. This is much better than I expected. It's still a non-reinforced magazine, but I was expecting this to be a few steps below what they actually provided. Not too bad. Lastly, they have this, and I believe this might be for aesthetics, but cutouts here for the stripper clips, as you can see right over here. Kind of the strip clip guide for AK-74 mags. I don't know if that's just the molds that they have, or if they're trying to replicate it, or if we might see 5.56 kind of strip clip stuff. I think that would be a fun accessory to sell, since nothing like that's readily on the market for the 5.56 AKs. I think it's kind of cool. I've tried to use the AK-74, feeding spoon and stripper clips to go in there. It's a little janky. If maybe in a perfect, kind of method you can get it to fit, but I wasn't I wasn't successful. It really jammed up. But anyway, that's another kind of cool detail, and I assume that's more for aesthetics than anything else. But not too bad. And this obviously fits in the rifle just fine. It's basically cut to fit this exact mag well. I did notice that their tab is cut, and this is a very similar cut to the AK-74 Bakelite magazine that I have, where the previous owner had really cut in this angle. So as long as the width and then the area that this inserts in right above here or here goes into the rifle, I may be able to get those to fit. So I'm going to do a magazine fitment testing here in just a minute. But anyway, yeah, it kind of reminds me of that on this back end here of the rear tab. As for the rifle itself, for its price point, I got this for about 600 chicken nuggets. They go typically for about 650 chicken nuggets. If you're at a really shitty kind of, online retailer, maybe close to 7, but I would not pay 7 because these still haven't had enough data out on the market, at least since the new ownership kind of came down. I'm just unsure yet whether or not these are going to be a good deal. Oh, in addition to buying the rifle, let me see if I can find it. I also picked up a spare firing pin. One of the unfortunate kind of controversial issues with these rifles were the over-hardened firing pins. And some initial reports, I believe the AI on Google was saying about 1,500 rifles or so, maybe more, maybe less, had some issues with the firing pins cracking. They said, according to Classic Firearms, as well as some of the reports online, that they have addressed that issue. However, one neat thing is the Beryl style of firing pins will fit the bolt, but they actually sell factory firing pins from Pioneer Arms that you can buy as well. And these are about 15, 16 chicken nuggets, and it's just good to have something like that on hand. So the fact that I saw this and this on Atlantic, I was like, you know what, I might as well get one since this is a unique part. I don't have to spend 30 to 50 chicken nuggets for a Beryl style of firing pin. I can just go with something directly for the factory. So it's nice to have this. However, that being said, if you buy one of these brand new, the firing pin portion is covered under warranty from Pioneer Arms. I do want to mention that I had emailed Pioneer about a couple of other products and firearm lines that I was just curious about here in the future. They used to carry sporter versions. They used to carry a couple of other things. And so I had emailed them, and I received a response within 24 hours. I actually spoke with a person named Elizabeth.
And I've also got something to say to Elizabeth.
Maybe. Come on, you can do it, Randy.
Come on. Elizabeth. Elizabeth. Elizabeth, I love you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I was really impressed. 24 hours and answering some piddly questions that had nothing to do with the warranty, taking that time to get back to me. I thought that was pretty fucking dope. I really respect that. So I got nothing but compliments thus far. As for the rifle itself, basically, just kind of upon initially opening the box at the FFL, I was surprised at how clean this actually was. The finish is fantastic. The fit feels great. The wood furniture actually feels like fucking solid. It actually feels like wood furniture. A little bit oversizing in some areas, but I mean, I could fucking shave that down if I wanted to. I mean, if you're really OCD, there's no snag points that I can feel, but I mean, if you're really looking at it, slight kind of like oversized in certain areas. But you know what? That doesn't fucking matter to me. It does not have a cleaning kit milled out into the back end of the stock. Obviously, you can get stocks that have that. You could, until I take this off, I'm unsure if you have enough meat inside of the stock to manufacture your own, but you know what? I don't think that's really the case. But despite it not coming with a cleaning kit, it does have a cleaning rod, which I do appreciate, as that fulfills the aesthetic of the classic AK look. Has the palm swell style of lower handguard. I really like the stain of this. It comes with a classic style of AK grip here, just like that. I'm going to swap this out for one that I have worked on. This is the muzzle brake, kind of a 2-chamber. There's actually nothing wrong with this muzzle device. If I was trying to keep this as cheap as possible, I would definitely keep this on, but this also feels pretty decent. Here's the little plug that comes on the charging handle to keep it from puncturing the box during shipping. I'm actually going to swap this out with a Tapco AK-74 style of muzzle brake. I just have it laying around, and I've been wanting to put it on something, and I saw a couple of videos of gentlemen who had mounted it on theirs, and it's like, you know what, it looks okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that, but there is nothing wrong with this muzzle device. Other than that, bring it back down to the business area here. So here's the front half of the rifle. Some people may not like the aesthetic they went with the safety lever here. Basically, they just took these little spot welds and put a plate on that. I assume mostly because of cost. Instead of having an entirely different, kind of stamping for the sheet metal safety, they just went with the standard one, a little U-notch cutout, and went ahead and spot welded this little kind of finger assist. That being said, this little bitch is very, very tight, but that's not something that necessarily bothers me. The tight gas tube release lever here, as well as safety, I appreciate them being a little bit tighter, as it'll eventually wear in. I believe Clayco mentions that the backside of his safety ended up kind of rubbing, and that was causing the tension. However, this could just be bent in, and that's where I'm getting my tension. I have yet to take it down, so I haven't fully inspected it just yet. I have seen a video where a gentleman was firing this, and his safety was a little bit loose, so I don't know if he bent his out. But what ended up happening is it went to about the midsection here, and he didn't quite notice, or maybe it was slightly below it, and he was getting a dead trigger. But almost all the reports within the comments, everybody kind of noticed this starting to rise under fire. So the fact that this is tight, I highly doubt this is going to rise up. So I'm not terribly worried about that. Comes with your little chamber flag. Take that for what you will. But all in all, this is kind of the overall aesthetics of the rifle. Believe it, I'm pleasantly surprised with how good this feels. So I'm going to go ahead and off camera take this apart, and you will kind of go along with me with the initial first visuals of the kind of core components here. All right, now with this disassembled, while not on camera, according to the draconian YouTube rules, I should be okay to now show the internals. Recoil or return spring looks fine. Obviously cast part back here, but looks all new. No corrosion. In fact, there's light coating of oil on things. Looks great. The stamped sheet metal dust cover here, again, doesn't feel chintzy, doesn't feel flimsy. It's ribbed for extra rigidity in there. Looks good to me. No kinds of damage or anything like that, so that looks fantastic. Not that matters, but for anybody interested, let's see. Here's the bolt. Okay. Looking good. So again, these are just initial impressions. I'm just capturing this on video so that we can go ahead and document. So I'm also going to take pictures of what this looks like prior to firing. So this looks okay. Nothing too crazy here. Might have a little interesting portion here. I'm not sure if that is just the tooling as they were milling this out or what, but that is interesting. Channel here, I have some AKs that have really rough kind of, tool marks and things like that. That's not something I'm too, concerned about. But again, cast carrier here. The gas piston itself looks real clean. Looks very good. No complaints there. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. I'm just doing this off camera. I'm just seeing if I can kind of push in any of that or pull the extractor, so that's not too bad. One other report that I've seen online is the extractor claw on one person's I think it's Hobo Factory. He has a whole series of these. He bought one earlier on, I think last year or maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but he started having issues with the extractor, possibly the extractor spring. I'm not sure what specs fit this just yet. I haven't dove too deep into it, but anyway, I would like to see Pioneer Arms come with more part supply in that regard, just in case. I mean, obviously this would be covered under warranty as well, but anyway, feels nice and tight. Again, until I live fire it, I really don't know. It could be too tight. It could loosen up. Anything could happen. But it's looking clean, looking very, very clean so far. Pretty happy with that. And then the rifle itself. Let's see. Okay, here we got the little trunnion in there. Just some debris, from shipping and things like that, but looks real clean. Kind of has the dual feed ramp on either side. Should help with the 5.56 feeding. Has inside of there a retaining plate instead of the shepherd's hook that would normally hold some of the more classic AKs. Excuse me. They have their own style of fire control group. I believe they do sell these as a kit should you want to buy theirs, but it has a nice rounded hammer. I believe that should work pretty well in terms of preventing any kind of peening. The rails look good. I mean, everything looks straight. I mean, so far to me, this looks pretty not bad, just with initial impressions. Obviously, anything can happen. This could shit the bed. I have no idea. But one of the things that always frustrates me is when I'm after a product online, if I can't find enough reviews, if I can't find anything that satisfies the curiosity and proves one way or another if it's going to be a problem child of a firearm, it kind of bothers me. And so there's a couple of videos. Clayco and H-Town Werewolf have kind of a burn down series of videos on theirs. They do answer a lot of questions. Clayco goes over AK fitment, which again, as I mentioned before, I will go ahead and do at the end of this video with the conservative kind of mini 5.56 AK magazine collection that I have. But anyway, H-Town Werewolf, they ran it suppressed, and one of the things that a lot of people picked up is I don't think the parts quality can sustain that kind of firing. I agree that AK should be able to handle that just fine, but theirs didn't. It did look like it was just an over travel issue, so this could be cured by using a stronger recoil return spring. You can adjust that by getting a KNS piston, or the cheaper option would be to go with a little buffer. Anyway, these chew that up, prevent the bolt carrier from coming back. There's some rumor about this hitting the buffer back here and causing extra issues when it comes to the rear rivets. I haven't seen a whole lot of documentation of that. However, to kind of avoid any of that, instead of investing in any kind of extra power recoil spring or KNS piston, we're going to go ahead and just try this to fill up that gap, just to see if we can prevent any kind of rearward travel. Again, upon live firing, that'll kind of answer a little bit more questions because I'll be able to see damage and I'll be able to see any kind of other issues. But H-Town Werewolf's video basically showed, I think, if I recall, the crack was right about here on this top section, right about there, coming down. It wasn't at the rivets, but it was right about there. And that was, I think, post shooting that suppressed. So we'll kind of see, what that entails. But I figured it might be beneficial being, a little bit overgassed in general, as AKs are, especially with the 5.56. If I can soak up a little bit more room back here and kind of avoid that and curtail it before investing in a KNS piston or adding something that could cause feeding or cycling issues like an extra power kind of spring, I think I'm going to go with the cheaper option, about anywhere from 5 to 10 chicken nuggets online. So there's a whole bunch of different thicknesses and things like that, but this should work on this rifle. I am going to do a couple of part swaps. I have a matching cut down grip set that I'm going to go ahead and put on this simply because I have it and it's going to match the wood. Okay, I have a spare TDI lower forearm that I'm going to go ahead and mount in there. Hopefully that fitment is okay. And then I'm still on the fence, but I have a Texas Weapon Systems top cover rail that I may mount after I go ahead and take this out shooting. I want to see if it's worth putting that part on here or not. But anyway, circling back to kind of why I went after this rifle. I want more clarification. I want more data points. And the whole reason I picked up the Vishka, one, it was the price point, very opportunistic. I got that for an incredibly good deal. This was a little bit more expensive. However, I would like to have a source of videos that will cover average kind of ammo pacing and just an average end user's range use with this rifle, and just see kind of what kind of feeding issues, what kind of mags work, what kind of wear one can expect. And if it can hold up to that, ideally between now and the end of 2026, I would like to get anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 rounds, which, being conservative, that should be able to happen on a budget. But I'm not going to be doing mag dumps, necessarily. I might do one or two here and there, but I want to just shoot this casually, as any kind of normal end user would, obviously not competing or anything like that, but then just monitor wear. And the reason I'm doing that is perhaps at its price point, with the corners that they cut to reduce cost, could this be a rifle for somebody that is just starting out, that maybe wants to get into something? As I mentioned before in the Vishka video, there's a lot of states that are attacking your ability to obtain firearms. So sometimes time is of the essence, and maybe you don't have that duration to get to, the 12 or 15 or 2,000 chicken nuggets that a 5.56 alternative rifle costs. Something that would be of, top shelf quality. So this is just something that I want to, I don't know, better document on YouTube, and just kind of go through the motions with it and show you guys exactly what I see. I mean, if this shits the bed, at least it's on camera. At least you're going to see every single element about it, just like with the Vishka. I'm not promoting this. I'm not claiming that this is of incredibly high quality and it's just as good as, or it's going to be this magnificent, magical fucking thing. I'm basically just documenting it. That's it. I am impressed by the quality, so far. The fit and finish to me looks good. It's a 5.56 alternative, so I don't have to put as many rounds through my M85 or my M90, which I consider to be a higher quality type of AK. I know some people absolutely hate Zasava and their line of AKs, but for me, they've been nothing but fantastic. I also wanted something that had more of the classic AK design without an adjustable gas block, and again, this fit the price point and kind of my intended uses with it. Kind of a plinking rifle, something I could mag dump, something I can kind of beat up and tinker on and things like that, so long as I don't void warranty, obviously, but just slap on some parts here and there and have some fun with it. So anyway, that's kind of this in a nutshell. So I'm going to go ahead and pop on a couple of parts and show you what route I'm going to take this on. As I mentioned before, I'm probably not going to add the Texas Weapon Systems dust cover rail just yet. I want to see what kind of accuracy I can obtain with this, despite my pretty shitty eyesight. But anyway, if this group's pretty okay, then I think I'll go ahead and mount that and then put an optic on top. This does have, as you guys have seen when I had it on the flip side, it does have an optics rail here. I'm unsure of what fits this just yet. I don't have a whole lot of spare optic rails or optic mounts for side rails like this. Most of my stuff is either gas tubes or Texas Weapon Systems like pick rail mounts and things like that. So I may pick one of those up too. I might save that Texas Weapon Systems rail for a different AK. I think I'm going to get a 103 here one of these days, but time will tell. So we'll go ahead and figure that out and kind of get in on it. But I'll go ahead, swap the parts, and then we'll turn the video back on. Let's get this out onto a tray. Nice. Alrighty, so basically got everything installed. You can see I added a little bit of marker to the TDI rail as that got beat up in my little parts bin here. But I wanted to point out the thickness of the lower forearm. I mean, this thing was phenomenal. It has little the tension spring in there. I mean, there's a lot of good detail to this. I definitely lend my compliments to what I'm seeing so far. Not bad at all. I don't see any kind of flimsiness or corners cut on their hardware. These feel really good. Again, compared to the Century Arms Vishka, feels solid. Feels really good. You'd be totally fine running this, stock if you wanted to. And as I noted before, went ahead and added the buffer inside of there. Is it necessary? Probably not, but I'm going to go ahead and run it just in case. But I want to make sure I noted that is now installed. And then, of course, the moment of truth with this kind of angled foregrip here. We'll see if we can still rock and lock this in. Oh, yeah, plenty of clearance room. plenty of clearance room. I bet I could even mount it a little bit more forward if I chose to, but fits just fine. Other than that, these are the TGK cut down Bakelite grips. I have a whole host of them, which does include the shortened mounting hardware, just standard AKM style of grip screws here. But anyway, threaded to fit in the standard M6 style of nuts that the AKs typically use. Couple of other features. I like to add a little bit of rubber filler to this section so that it makes a smooth surface so that your fingers do not catch in this indentation here. But that's optional. It doesn't have to be on there. I just tend to OCD it a little bit. Also add a teeny bit of material on the backside with the current mounting hardware that I'm using for M-LOK rails, and it locks up very snug. So other than that, this is kind of the overall design. As I mentioned before, roll this down a little bit. I went with the Tapco style of, AK-74 brake, simply because I've had this for a very long time. I'm not a huge fan with the aesthetics of how this buttons up to the front sight base here on most thinner profile barrels. There's just something different with the 24 millimeter style of muzzle devices that kind of envelop. It just looks better. I wish they would make shorter versions of these, and then I think aesthetically it would look a little bit better. But I've had this sitting around forever, and I figure, why not? Why not just go ahead and use it and call it good? That's not to say that there's anything wrong with this muzzle device. The crown up here, the dual chamber, this is going to work just fine if you want to leave this as bare bones as possible. I mean, so far with the furniture quality and even this muzzle device, I would have preferred, had they not added this crown. I don't know. I'm not too crazy about that. It's just a personal preference thing, but this will work just fine. This, in fact, replicates the, I think it's like Destructive Device Inc., DDI style of two-chamber brake that I have on my PSA, as seen here. So kind of cool. Maybe it's Damage Industries. I have no fucking idea. I forgot the last time I checked into it, but I do like this dual chamber much more. Just not a fan of the crown is all. But anyway, very similar design. So this is going to get pretty good recoil mitigation, keep you on target pretty well. But anyway, just wanted to kind of show the design difference there. I mean, it is near to the same. So I mean, there's really nothing wrong with it if you want to keep this. It's just my personal preference to boot it. Alrighty, now for the fun part. I do have a kind of decent selection. I have ordered 2 more color variations of these, but these, obviously, they're control test. We all know that these ones fit this receiver. So now the moment of truth would be attempting to fit the small collection that we have here. So on the first, we have the WBP right in here. Basically, if it's the same brand, I really don't need to test fit the capacity differences. So like a 20 rounder versus a 30 rounder, it should fit all the same. We have a Circle 21, some Bakelites. We have our AC Unities of various flavors. I do have other ones, but I'm not going to pull those out. Bulgarian, again, I have other flavors in terms of colors of these, but it should fit since the specs are the same. The Gorilla Mag, which I'm not a fan of. Pro Mag, Tapco, which is the Galil specs. I have PSA. And then over here, I do suspect the initial versions of these are like the Galil Orlite magazines, but they came with the M85. I also have a Zastava steel magazine and one of their polymer magazines. And then on the far end, we have a slightly modified Galil mag that will fit in an M85, but it needs a little bit of work and painting and stuff like that. So it's on the end. So we'll start at the far side over here. Okay, WBP. Okay, yeah, a little tension right in there. Okay, kicking out, a little bit hard to eject, but as we rock and lock this in, it does lock in just fine. Obviously, what I'll probably do is make a note of which ones fit in the best, and then from there run them to see what reliability is, because just because you can fit a 5.56 or 5.45 modified magazine inside of a 5.56 AK, they all kind of have different fitment issues, and so some things can fit within the magwell but be too high or not be at the right angle, and you get weird feeding issues. So it's not always a definite, but at least we can kind of see what readily fits. So next is a Circle 21 with a Pod Arms follower. Here is the modified East German Bakelite magazine that has the similar upswept rear lug there that somebody had modified before my ownership. So we'll see if this fits. Okay, there we go. Interesting. Let me see. I'm going to hold this in hand. It's a little bit odd doing it on the offhand. Okay, let's try it one more time with this bitch. No? Hey. All right. Well, apparently I'm a lying little retard. We can't get this to fit. It was just the weird angle I was at. So the correction, the Circle 21 does fit just fine. Bakelite does fit just fine. See, I'm just going to have to do this off camera because it's easier on my loading hand. Non-modified Bakelite. Oh, that fits like fucking butter. Fits just fine. Looks goddamn beautiful. So I want to get a couple of more AC Unity 556 magazines just to kick around at the range. There's a recent report of the base plates coming loose on the second gens. However, I do not suspect that is the issue with the third gens AK-19 style of magazines. So we're going to try this one. So what we're running into is if I whack this in, I can probably get this to seat, but it is very kind of rough getting it in there. Not wanting to, not wanting to seat. Let's try the little 10 rounder. Not that it should make a difference. Yeah, so I'm getting a little bit more forward and rear length. Not quite fitting those as readily. I believe Hobo Factory also mentions that his receiver did not fit him very well, but I have heard other folks report that theirs does fit inside of the receiver. Mine just feels like these. I have a little bit too much tension. This can probably be remedied by trimming this down. I'm not going to trim the rifle down, but you could probably trim these to fit a little bit better. But I believe, who was it? Clayco? I think on his, he mentioned that his fit okay. But yeah, on mine, I'm getting a lot of tension on the front and rear section here, not fitting in. These are the Gun Mag Warehouse exclusive Bulgarian 556 magazines. Fit just fine, very smooth going in. Again, I'm doing this with my offhand, my firing hand. It just doesn't. it's not feeling right because it's not at the normal angle I typically go at. Okay, let me try this. A little tough to eject, but insertion is fantastic. Gorilla Mag. Okay, this is the one that had all the bits of plastic and shit and has that stupid bolt holdover follower. Okay, that fits as well. Not too shabby. ProMag. So ProMag fits okay, and I'm assuming if I whack it the fuck in there, it'll finally lock. But it does plug in perfectly fine into the receiver. I'm not a huge fan. I just own this because it's a steel reinforced variant of a 556 AK magazine. So we'll go ahead and eject this. Now this one's the next most interesting one. These fit M90s and M85s. These are the Tapco Galil magazines. And so if these fit, then there's a possibility that those will fit as well. I'll show this one on camera. God, I'm just making a goddamn mess of things. All right. So these, okay, lug does not want to play within the mag well, and that's even with my loading hand there, just not wanting to fit in. So that's a no-go. Galil, Tapco magazine. These aren't really, market standard anymore. They're actually a little bit harder to find, but just to show you. So this is not a good indication that the Zastava magazines will fit, but we will see. Okay, here is all the variants of the 556 PSA magazines. H-Town Werewolf mentions that these fit and ran in his fairly well. Oh, beautiful. Okay, a little bit harder to eject. I'm not sure if this is going to loosen up with time, but let's see. Let's see if a color changes it. It's a teeny bit awkward ejecting them. it loads in just fine. But then what I'm getting is I'm getting this kind of lug hang up where it's not immediately doing it. And it could just be because this needs to wear down. And as it does wear down on the sides and stuff, it gives me a little bit more clearance. But as you guys can see, see, that's the part I'm struggling with. As you can see, loads in just fine like that. And then as I keep doing it, I believe that these will smooth out. So we'll see. All right. The kind of Galil style or light or whatever the fuck that company was called. Nope. Does not want to play in the magwell at all. Way too narrow of a magwell to fit these. So therefore, I am fairly certain. Let's see. Zastava steel magazine. Yeah, this section right here is too wide, entirely too wide to want to even go in. So that's a no-go. It should be no different for their polymer variant here. Yep, same kind of deal. Just not going to fit in. Just too much width and length to get that to fit. So that's a no-go. Let's see. Lastly, the modified Galil magazine. Same kind of thing. Too wide near the feed lip area. It's not even going to go into the receiver. So not the end of the world. Galil and Zastava M90, M85, that's a no-go. Everything over here fits minus, because the reports are conflicting. Alrighty, these all fit. Okay, I can get them to fit. I had trouble, obviously, with my offhand, my firing hand loading. It's just an awkward kind of range of motion, but I was able to get all these in. These were a teeny bit sticky, but I assume under regular use, as you can see, the side profile will wear away, and that will fit in just fine. So with regular use, that should be totally fine. These guys all fit in, I'd say, the smoothest. Once I had my fucking hand out of the goddamn way, probably the Bulgarian 5.56 magazines, which is load here. Yep, very smooth, at least on the insertion. The ejection is slightly difficult, but overall pretty not bad. The Bakelights, I was so hoping that these would fit goddamn beautifully and look sexy as hell. AK 74, I believe that's the pattern of the receiver that they used anyway. So everything over here that uses that should work. WBP does work. Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with that. That's not bad, not too shabby. So depending on your price point, depending on your 5.56, existing 5.56 AK rifles, this could be a crossover platform for you that would work with these magazines. Sorry for the off-camera shit that I had to do, but I'm not going to fucking film myself doing it. I'm just going to do a tabletop. But yeah, not too shabby. As I mentioned before, this series of videos, as well as my purchasing of this rifle, is not to brag this up or make this anything that it's not. I just want to see what it's capable of, and I want to see if the stories are true. I mean, the fact that the front trunnion's now forged, okay, I'm curious about the rivets again after seeing M26 Lemon Grenade's video, after seeing H-Town Werewolf and Clayco and kind of what they had going on. I don't know if any of them will ever see this, but if they want to comment and let me know any other issues that maybe weren't caught on camera, I'd love to hear that. I just like data. I like all the science behind all that shit. So that stuff is fascinating. I'm not a huge fan of looking up the reviews and things on forums. It seems like there's a lot of guys that are still convinced that these are cast trunnions and kind of parroting the days of old between IO Inc. and the early days of Pioneer Arms. Not a huge fan of that. I want to have actual hard data from somebody who owns the rifle themselves. I have heard pretty decent things from their 7.62x39 rifles. It's the 5.56 iterations that have had some trouble out of the gate. But if Pioneer Arms has kind of tweaked things and they're willing to listen to the market and improve their product, I am all for it. And if this is the first series of rifles that display that, again, I am all for it. So these are fun guns. I just like weekend plinking. That's all I'm after. I don't need suggestions of things that are better, things that are more expensive, because that's not at all the purpose of this video. I'm simply covering this fucking rifle. That's it. The next series of videos is going to be me going through this rifle, documenting more things. So I'll take pictures now and insert insert those at the end of this video that just kind of depict the condition of the bolt and carrier and inside of the receiver. Next, we'll take probably the favored magazines that I have here and go out and see what's going on and which ones feed the best out of it. Again, Hobo Factory was one person that had some feeding issues going on, but I suspect that was probably because of his extractor that was inside of the bolt giving him some issues, but it could have very well been a fitment issue with his magazines. However, he may have been rocking the factory magazines and still had those issues. So I need to go back through his series of videos and just kind of pay closer attention. But yeah, that's shit, man. That's about this in a fucking nutshell. I'm gonna go ahead and pack it all up for tonight, and call it a day. But yeah, this is the Pioneer Arms 5.56 rifle. So far, I'm impressed. Everything is decent, but really live firing is going to tell me everything I need to know. So stay tuned. I want to say thank you, everybody who watches my bullshit videos. I deeply appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments or want to see something specific with this rifle, go ahead and let me know in the comments. I don't check my channel often, but when I do, it's when I upload videos. I've been busy with work, so I haven't really had a chance to tinker around on my phone or online at all. But anyway, yeah, we'll kind of go from there. So other than that, take care.